guys, Tours20 here, welcome back to Mile Bay. If you missed the live stream on the weekend, we were figuring out the layout of our international airport of Mile Bay, which is going to be sitting within St. Marie, our capital city. And yeah, I mean, this is pretty much it. We've decided to go for this triangular pointy runway that faces towards the ocean, and I mean, pretty much narrowly missing the mountains that are surrounding this whole area. We don't have a huge amount of space for it, and the whole map itself, because we have two cities and this is the size of St. Marie, we did need to scale this thing down quite a lot just so we can make it fit in. So it's probably not the right size for an airport. These things are definitely pretty massive, especially if you are making an international one. But in terms of scale and in terms of trying to capture an airport within a small space like a map like this. Alright, so the airport. This is what we got. We are making a fair amount of money, which is good because I think we're going to be blowing through a fair amount of cash in today's build. A couple of things that I have done off camera. So I did that on camera in the live stream. Off camera, I removed our roundabouts under here because apparently roundabouts aren't much of a thing in America. So there we go. We've got that going on. We do need to build some sort of interchange here in today's build because, yeah, I mean, this is our main road going from the city to the airport, and then it connects up to the highway. So we're going to need something pretty substantial. And I've also added in another ramp so that we are now all connected with this guy. So like I said, this is definitely going to be a scaled down version of an international airport. We absolutely need more room for our taxiways and our stands and our runways as well, but we'll see what we can manage to squeeze in. Not to mention some sort of parking lot as well, and because this is an international airport, we're going to need some sort of parking garage, which I haven't actually downloaded anything for that yet, but I will. We'll figure out what that looks like. See this train line here? So I would like this to serve our cargo, which is going to be most probably on the other side of the airport. Originally, I was thinking it was going to be around here, but I don't think I've got enough space for it anymore. And I want to give it a fair amount of clearance from our runway because I think we're going to need all the room we can get. So we'll probably make it do something like this. And look, I think we're going to probably need to do another tunnel, which is totally fine. And I'm just going to use Move It just to get this a bit closer. I generally will just drag out the general idea of where I want something to go, and then I'll just use Move It instead of trying to get it perfect the first go. I just think you've got way more control of Move It than you do when you are dragging out these networks. So I am just going to drag it a little bit closer, make sure the nodes match up to the highway, and then this should just look a little bit better than it does at the moment. Our main road going to St. Marie was originally going in this direction. I was thinking of putting the terminal over here, but instead I think the best spot to now drag it out and to have some sort of significant interchange is going to be better placed somewhere over here so that we can have our interchange, and then there is a road that gets to the airport somewhere along here. But the thing is, as you can probably see, we don't have a huge amount of space. It's very, very limited. And means whatever we end up placing around here, by the way, I'm just doing a couple of roads just for some ideas. What am I doing here? Talking and building is never a good idea because you never end up building anything. There we go. That's a little bit better. Yeah, so that shape doesn't even make any sense. So this instead probably should go in that direction, which looking at the trees, I mean, I think this was the original road anyway. So I am going back to my old ways. This is where the road originally went. Oh man, what have I done? Okay, I have seriously messed something up just by building that road just like that. This guy is having a really hard time. Sorry, buddy. I don't know what to do about you, but you're just going to be stuck in a little twister over there. All right, well, I'll just leave you to do your thing. You can see that we are going to have to build something kind of small as well because we do have this interchange just here, so I don't really want to interrupt this too much. I've got these roads here just for the time being because they're going to help me place out my taxiways, so they're just going to stay there. What I think I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump into a time lapse because we've got a fair amount of building to do. What I want to do is I want to connect up our terminals and see if that functions and hopefully make a bit of money because they're turned off at the moment. and we'll get the airport to some sort of functioning state. So how about we just get this working, get through some milestones, and hopefully make some money. So for this time lapse, I decided to keep it all layout. We're going to be doing the layout of the airport and also the interchange that's going to be situated just outside here. We got basically two main roads that are meeting together, and we need something that's pretty substantial. But I tell you what, that interchange, probably my ugliest work. It is a hideous looking interchange. You'll see it very shortly. Hopefully I can save it with some landscaping. We'll do that in a live play. This time lapse goes for about 10 minutes. And I don't know, I gotta fix it up because you can get away with ugly interchanges within the city, or you know what? Probably just in the cities. I feel like if you're gonna build an ugly interchange, they usually sit within cities because they're trying to squeeze them between buildings, and you know, they don't usually have a huge amount of space. Whereas when you get out into places like airports, they generally try and go for something really well landscaped, something that is quite symmetrical, something that looks quite nice. You know, they generally have quite a lot of space to work with, and this is usually the first place they usually see the interchange first thing, so they want to try and make these things somewhat nice. Mine, not so much. I was just kind of like putting nodes together, and all of a sudden I had something pretty hideous. So yeah, you'll see that pretty shortly, and hopefully we can fix it in the live play. But before I do get to that interchange, I do just want to talk quickly about Mile Bay, just generally. So when I first started this series, the whole point of it, not the whole point, but I guess a big chunk of it was I wanted to build up this map, make sure that as I'm building, we're sort of doing it in a way that shows how these places have progressed over time. So a main road will start off as a dirt road and then turn into a street and, you know, progress. It will change over time. Whereas I think a lot of the other cities that I have done over the years of playing this game, you know, I sort of just do a road layout and then just start zoning in chunks, and it kind of takes a while until you actually start seeing a city form. Whereas for Mile Bay, I wanted to make sure that we had, you know, everything always looked somewhat complete. And, you know, for the most part, I think we've done that. I think there have been times when I probably haven't been able to execute that. And I think if I was going to do it realistically, you'd have to start from, you know, the city, how it was 300 years ago, and then progress. But we were never going to do that. I just sort of wanted to show that I didn't have to have these big open spaces and planned areas and chunks of a city, and then a couple of months later, then it starts to finally take shape. I really wanted to just show that it's progressed over time, and you can sort of see how it's been changing, because I do love that history side of cities. I always find it quite fascinating. But, you know, to do it as time progresses, you'd really have to start very, very early on. So I think I've done that somewhat, but there's definitely been times when I haven't been able to execute that totally. Particularly when we built Cape Lewis, you know, kind of just did that as my old ways. And there's also been other places where I definitely haven't done it. But for this airport, I was quite looking forward to doing it in a way that the airport started off quite small and then progressed. But because I did a live stream, I kind of just completely forgot that we were going to be doing it that way. And all of a sudden, I had already laid out all the grand plans for the airport, already had 2 runways, already decided it was an international airport. And here I am now building a big interchange as if it's always been there. Whereas I think it would have been much cooler if I just had a road going out this way, and then we sort of introduced the highway, and then we made an interchange and all that sort of stuff. So what you will see me do shortly is I'm actually going to delete that second runway, and I'm going to turn it into a much smaller runway. And that way I'm going to see this airport as a regional airport with a pretty big interchange. So it's not exactly starting from the very beginnings of an airport. I think if you're going to do that, it would be like it'd be a dirt runway and the tiniest terminal ever. Probably wouldn't even be much of a terminal. But I guess we're starting the airport off a little bit further on in its development. So not exactly its very beginnings, but definitely a little further on than I'd anticipated. But you know what? There's still plenty more of the airport to expand on or not to expand on. It's sort of also up to you guys if you think that it looks good the way it is, or if we need extra runways or extra cargo facilities, or we keep expanding. I don't know, I'm kind of also waiting for your opinions too, because at the end of this, I think it does look alright, but do kind of want it to be international, do kind of want to add a couple of extra terminals, but then sort of don't really want to as well, so we'll just see what happens. And in terms of that building style within Mile Bay, I guess it's always been tricky to execute because you tend to have an idea of what it's going to look like at the end, but you're not shooting straight to that point. You're kind of building the first steps first, and then you slowly progress or don't progress. You kind of just sort of see what happens. Something like that is always been really tricky, and it's been fun to do in Mile Bay. It's definitely been a bit of an experiment, and probably the reason why some areas have progressed like that. But I think even building something like an airport, you tend to start imagining what it's eventually going to look like. So building just a little dirt airstrip and then trying to turn off that part of your brain where you're going, well, eventually it's going to be an international airport with multiple paved runways and multiple terminals and way more infrastructure. It's a hard thing to turn off. So that's probably why I always seem to go back into that default way of building. But what I think I've learned from Mile Bay is just a much better way of expanding out a city. Starting off as a smaller place and expanding from the city center, I think is definitely a way better way of expanding and building a city. Whereas in the past, I've immediately gone to the downtown or immediately gone to the road layouts, and then, you tend to have a very unusual first couple of episodes, not even couple, like 10 episodes, where you've got this like massive downtown and no sprawling suburbs, no infrastructure, and you're slowly chipping away. I think I'm kind of past that. I don't think I'm going to build like that anymore. And I think Mile Bay has definitely taught me the value of expanding a place from the center and keeping it small when it's still small. And then, eventually the city will grow. And I kind of like that. And I think I'm going to continue doing that moving forward. But you know what, moving forward, we should start talking about what we've been up to. I have built that very ugly looking interchange. I think it turned out so ugly because I wasn't really looking for inspiration. I was just putting nodes together, just joining them up, and then all of a sudden it's just hideous. It's atrocious, but it's there. And then now I am making our international airports no longer international, it's domestic, it's smaller. We've just got the one terminal, not the double, and I originally had planned to build like a multi-level car park and, lots of infrastructure in terms of where people can park and where people can stay and, even like public transport. I was going to do that straight up, but we're not going to do that. We're going to just take it down a notch. We just got the one terminal and a couple of taxiways, and that's it. That's all we really need. Don't need any extra than that. Adding in that second landing strip made it very short, so it's just a little tiny one. And for inspiration, I was originally looking at Jacksonville, which is where we were looking for the live stream, to make this pointy airport. But then started to shift my focus to other airports, more regional ones with similar shapes. I mean, it is a bit of an unusual shape of an airport, having the terminal in a spot where probably terminals don't usually sit. They usually sit, I guess, parallel to the runway, and then this one not so much. It's in a bit of a different area, but that's fine. I think it's gonna definitely help out when we do expand, or maybe not expand, always an option. These taxiways are a little bit tricky because they are only one direction. I guess it would be really annoying if they were multi-direction and kept on getting banked up and stuff. But apparently, taxiways in real life are multi-directional. I guess they just change whenever they need to. But it does make it tricky for airports like this because you have to try and use, I'm trying to use as little taxiways as possible, but also with the two runways, it's a little bit tricky to make sure that they match up. But I think this matches up just all right. Giving us a little bit more space for our tunnel, and now I'm putting in some access roads, what are these called? They're like little roads, but I guess these are just imaginary ones because they're just pathways. I mean, hopefully we don't see anyone just strolling along here. That would just really kill the realism, but these are great. I mean, this definitely adds a lot. I've been doing this for ages, even before the airport DLC dropped. it just helps to create a bit more detail for these big spaces like these airports. I'm sure a lot of you guys are doing something similar. I don't really know how realistic it is. I think making one along the perimeter of the airport, giving enough space for the, like, I guess the planes to be landing and then vehicles to be driving along. I guess you don't really want it to be restricted like that. So trying to give enough space, but also trying to be a bit careful about scale, because that is going to be a big struggle for this airport, is scale. I've already had people say, don't build an airport with the airport DLC, it's too big. But my argument is, where's the fun in that? I'm not just going to go, no, I'm not going to do it because it's too big. But look, these airports are big. When you do make these custom ones, you do have to have a pretty large city for it to actually look right. But, you know, I think it's always fun doing some scale work, trying to think of how do you make it, you know, how do you proportionally scale it down, make it look like it fits in with your city, but then also still functions, still works, still looks right. Trying to fit all the necessary bits and pieces that airports generally have. It's tricky. It's not easy, but that's my jam. I love it. Love trying to just push the game like this, you know, multiple cities, multiple towns, airports, make sure it looks all right. I mean, that's all debatable, but it's definitely something that I enjoy putting together. And, you know, doing something like this with lots of parking lots is also hard because, you know, airports have tons and tons of parking, and I guess getting away with parking this size for a regional airport, yeah, it works. I think it'd be totally fine, totally doable. But I guess when you get a little bit further on in the international side of the airport, then we're gonna have to expand that out. And I don't exactly want to have parking the size of the downtown of St. Marie. Whereas I guess realistically, yeah, you probably would have to have something like that for an airport. I am going to continue working on an airport that I started working in a live stream, and that one is massively scaled. It is probably the size of what airports should be built within the airport DLC, but for this one, yeah, not so much. Hey, I'm doing something kind of interesting over here. I had all these access roads, these service roads, and I thought, you know, why don't we have a industrial area over here that serves as the, I guess, storage area and office space for the airport, so you can access it through this road that goes over the highway. I guess you'd only use that if you were working over here. And then you've also got these service roads that go directly there. You know, you generally see this within airports, and I think that works pretty well. All right, that is it for the time lapse. Let's jump back into a live play and make it look pretty. Just a dog casually departing an aeroplane. Okay, fantastic. I tell you what, there's nothing worse than getting off a plane and having to walk across the tarmac. I mean, that's when you know you've caught a budget airline, or arriving at an airport that is a little bit more on the smaller side of things. I mean, that's where we're at. The airport is on the smaller side of things. I mean, I did that on purpose. You all saw it happen in the time lapse. Some things that you might have noticed is that we are not getting a huge amount of tourists, not a huge amount of usage at the moment. It hasn't been open for that long, but, well, you know what? I'm actually pretty glad to see this because I wasn't even seeing this before, so that's great. I don't know where they're going, but they're maybe going to just disappear. Rightio. Okay, fine, you do you. So this is our airport at the moment. It is just fine. It's functioning just fine. I think it looks pretty nice. I'm really happy with how it is actually functioning as well with these taxiways. I'm about to show you them in a second, but I do want to show you what we have to get up to. We need to increase the airport attractiveness because 0 out of 200 is pretty terrible. So is that. So our taxiways, because I doubt you would have seen how I put it together in the time lapse, but this is how they look, and I'm honestly pretty happy with how it's functioning. It is a little bit crazy, but I do like the way that this one works. We've got aeroplanes coming in this way, this is how they depart, and you can pretty much choose which direction you're going to go, if you're going to use the smaller runway or if you're going to use a larger one. This whole thing just works really well. Obviously, there are some taxiways that are not useful, something like this one. Well, actually, no, you do need to use that one. So I guess it does work probably the way that it should. I guess I could probably get rid of this one if I was going to remove any that were unusable. So like I mentioned in the time lapse, we will be upgrading this airport as we go, but we do need to increase the attractiveness of it before we even have the option to make any sort of upgrades. Yeah, we'll hit that pretty easily, but this one not so much so. And we are making 0 money. So how about we just make some improvements? The attractiveness. I mean, there's a bunch of different things we can do to make it actually look... Here we go, decorative buildings. Is that going to work? No, that's not the one we want. Yeah, the budget airport hotel, because I think this would look pretty nice somewhere around here. But you know what? I kind of want the sign potentially facing the other direction. I don't know why. Do I? Nah, stuff it. Let's just place it there. Let's make our hotel just look a bit cleaner. We'll make it that color instead. And let's give our passengers much easier access to our airport hotel. In fact, we've got a really nice line here. We should try and make it all line up pretty nice and neat. So I'm going to get back our pathway. We'll go for this one. And just looking at that, we wanted to follow that pretty much exact. So how about something like this? Is that center? Nah, it's not even center. But I reckon I could probably just move it. That's better. And then our hotel something. Yeah, that's pretty close. I believe I can actually make custom crosswalks with traffic president mod. I believe. Could be wrong, but I think you can do this. It doesn't seem like it. I think maybe it's one of the other mods that I've used before. Actually, this looks familiar. Yeah, crossing. Okay, great. So there's no controller mods. You can create these custom crossings, and that's fantastic. That's so good. So people can actually go straight from the airport, cross the road, along here, we'll cross another road, and we'll do another crossing. We better line it up, because that would be a little bit triggering if it wasn't completely lined up. That's very nice. We've also got this little custom car park thing going on over here. Well, not really custom. Private, I should say, not custom. So I'm going to extend it, because I think that's kind of small. I reckon we can do a little bit better than that. We'll do that, and hopefully this is on the right side. It is. Fantastic. So smidge closer, and that is our budget hotel. Yeah, so we're just going to continue these bushes down here, because that's sort of the theme that we're going for along this part. So yeah, we'll continue the same sort of landscaping on this side of the path as well. So that's looking a bit nicer. Maybe even some of these trees. Just going to continue our parking, because we probably need just a little bit more. We didn't exactly have a huge amount of parking lots within an airport. You do need a fair amount, so we're going to put some more like this on either side. I don't know. Maybe not on either side. I know it's kind of nice to have a bit of a symmetrical airport, but maybe instead we have our parking just extended as if it's been extended, extended parking for the airport, and then maybe this side we keep it more open, just because I do sort of like the green space. It's kind of nice, and I don't think we're going to have an airport with this much green space for that much longer. I kind of feel like we're going to probably concrete this thing up pretty quickly. So yeah, I mean, let's just do a little bit more parking lots. Getting a little bit carried away with the tree work. It's time to get back to the thing that's actually going to make our airport more attractive, because at the moment it's 40 out of 200, And that's all thanks to our budget hotel, which is looking pretty budgety, you know? Pretty budgety. So let's add a couple more things because that's not going to cut it. How about, oh, that's quite nice. We'll do a tower. Of course, I don't really have enough room for it, and I need to put it on this side. Look, I might actually have to delete one of these stands, but I guess that's not so bad. Or maybe I just put it over here. Can I put it over here? Or because I am using Anarchy, I could probably just pop it in there. You know what? Stuff it. Let's just pop it in there. Okay, halfway there. We can continue this. What else can we place down with our absolutely tiny budget? We might need to make a bit more money before we can place down anything more. All right, a small hangar. We could probably get away with that. It's small, but it doesn't look that small. I would prefer to place them somewhere on here, you know? Like somewhere close to our terminal, but I don't think that's going to really cut it. Our runways are very, very close. I mean, I don't really want to place it there either. How about up here? You know what? Let's... Committing. We're placing it there. And one more would be lovely. So how about we try and make just a bit more money? Because $6. Okay. Well, these are fairly cheap, so I can just quickly get another one in there. Great. All right. So we are on the way to a super attractive airport. While I wait to make some money, I'm just spending some money. So obviously not doing the greatest job here, but this is kind of getting there. I don't really want to make it too bushy. I mean, this corner is pretty wild, and I'll probably do something kind of wild at this way as well, and maybe on this edge. But I reckon this interchange, because it is fairly new, you know, it's a pretty modern looking interchange, I will probably put a bit of landscaping into that. Probably similar to what I'm doing down here. But I do want to hit that next milestone for our, well, I want to hit the next level up, and I just need 20 more. I just don't really know what else to place because I don't have a huge amount of room. I already don't like where these sit. I kind of want to put them over here, but maybe that's for the next expansion. Maybe we'll move that then. I guess the only thing left to place them down that I haven't placed yet is one of these planes, and I just don't know. I guess I could probably put it around here. There we go. What is it, 20? It's 20. So that's it. That's all I need. Hey, all right. That's great. Maybe we'll see some extra planes. Maybe we'll see some extra tourists. I guess we'll have to just wait and see. Before I wrap up, though, let's finish up these interchanges. Let's turn this ugly one into something slightly more passable. And in classic form, I have spent much longer than I had anticipated. But I really wanted to commit to this whole idea of we are expanding this airport over time. I know there's some areas that are definitely much larger and much bigger than probably an airport of this size really needs. But I did want to make sure that this area was looking somewhat complete. You know, whether or not we keep this the way it is or whether we expand into this whole area, this now looks like it is a finished area. This is a whole bit of farmland. There's even some industry down here, some houses. So yeah, I think that's looking a lot better. And I'm sure a lot of you guys are like, $2, don't forget about a perimeter fence. Hey man, got you covered. Here it is. We got a fence to stop all those people getting into the airport. It's all just along here. Hopefully enough clearance. I think it's fairly alright. But it really just looks great in areas like this where we have the farmland and then we have this fence that just really marks the difference between the different areas we have around here. We had to change something. This is kind of interesting. This might help you as well, but I originally had this as just like clipped into this area just here. Remember that? Well, it wasn't working. I wasn't getting any aeroplanes. I think I probably cycled through about a year and no aeroplanes landed. I demolished one stand, placed it down there, and I mean, here we are. Aeroplanes taken off, so it works. And look, I mean, we are kind of far away now from our next point. So we do have a bit of work ahead of us to expand out, make this place look a lot more attractive. There are a lot of things in the works. We still have to probably add some more terminals. We have potentially another runway to add. We've got this train line here, which is going to connect up our cargo, which could potentially be out this way, or depending on what you guys have to say. I mean, you guys might think, well, leave it as it is. Just don't change it. And I'm also happy with that. Whatever state we get to, it is going to be a somewhat complete airport. This gravelly area, I mean, I personally really like it. I think it just changes this whole area up quite a lot. There's a real nice contrast between the farmland and the hillsides, and then you've got this gravel. Just shows that it's been manicured just slightly different. I don't know, I like the way it turned out. But something that I am a little bit up in arms about is this forested area. I just kind of think, I mean, I like it, but I also kind of am leaning towards just keeping it a bit more open. Just because if this was all farmland before an airport, then it probably would have been open field and they would have just left it like that. So I might even open it up so that this area is quite open. I don't know, just something to think about. Because next episode, I'm probably not going to work around here. I think I might work on some of the public transport instead. Because we actually have no bus service or any public transport going to our airport. And I am also thinking of maybe putting in our port. I don't know, there's a couple of things. We also don't even have a ferry service happening in St. Marie. There's no passenger service going besides a train line going out to Cape Lewis. So we've got some public transport things to kind of tackle, which I am also excited for. But that is it for today's episode. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one. I mean, super keen for this airport and seeing what we can get up to. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to leave a like. And if you want to go the next step further, then there is a link to my Patreon page. Being a patron gives you early video access, save game files like the one I've just built on, and even shoutouts at the end of each episode. Speaking of which, big thanks to these wonderful patrons: RJJ14, Eleanor Lempel, Daryl Albert, Michael Ferry, Zach Thibault, Blake Pritz, Luke Whiffen, Jack Wren, Stephen Voles, Adam Dre, Janik F, and Darren Morrissey. Guys, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!